It looked like the WNBA saga, the little run that they had, is now over. As major networks could be pulling segments from the broadcast and this current CBA agreement is heating up, this is all what the owners wanted.
Recently, the WNBA was slammed with a shocking revelation that could rock the whole league at its heart. Fox Sports and ESPN, two of sports' largest networks, are allegedly reducing their coverage. And it's at the worst possible time.
Think about ESPN, Fox, other sports networks. Everybody has took away WNBA segments.
Caitlin Clark's absence means that the player that introduced the league to largest increase in ratings in decades. Overnight, the spotlight dimmed. What was the heyday of women's? Currently, basketball appears to be falling apart due to its own weight. Admirers, those who watched Clark's electric play, have stopped watching, abandoning networks, wondering if the excitement was ever sustainable.
Oh, the ratings go down. What happened when the ratings go down? They're back in a sunken place, bro. And guess what happens when they go back in a sunken place? They're not getting no big-time payday.
For a league that already faces financial difficulties, disagreements, declining sales of tickets, and ongoing controversy, this most recent action has the force of a crushing strike. However, the question is not only why Fox and ESPN left. This is what it implies for the WNBA's own prospects.
Y'all ain't finna get no $1 million contracts. Guess what's gonna happen to the CBA agreement? It's gonna stay the same. You're not getting no extra money. The ratings has dropped 80%. That's what they're gonna say. You know, they're gonna be looking through this. Hey, you know what? The ratings are just, I'm sorry. So all of that momentum that you guys had about a year and a half ago, it's over. It's over.
When Fox Sports and ESPN made the silent but deliberate choice to cut WNBA coverage, it wasn't merely a programming shuffle. It was a declaration. These networks were established based on ratings, on narratives that draw in advertising and hold viewers' attention for the previous year. That plot line was Caitlin Clark. Every press release, every highlight reel, conference, each record-breaking performance attracted a league's attention. It had fought for several years to attract the general public's attention.
I'll say a little conspiracy with keeping Caitlin Clark out, with them playing a factor in her not being there to keep the CBA agreements and pull away the interest from the league. I believe this is a planned attack by the WNBA owners, commissioners, to pull the interest away from the league.
However, as soon as she left, having been injured, the momentum vanished, and networks began to reevaluate if the investment was worthwhile. This is the unpleasant truth. Loyalty is not the foundation of networks. They work with numbers. When Clark was on the court, viewership soared and merchandise moved, and there was a stir on social media. Without those metrics crashed for her. The alleged Clark effect turned out to be true. Too genuine, perhaps. Rather than raising the league overall, her presence revealed the extent of the WNBA's dependence on just one player.
This has been a joke, and the WNBA has, in my view, blown its opportunity.
She wasn't simply sidelined because the losing team was the Indiana Fever. It was the whole league. Fans noticed right away. Games that were popular on Twitter in the past hardly created a stir. Slots during prime time shrank. Highlights vanished from sporting programs every night. Executives at ESPN understood the meaning of the data after seeing it. Premiums were not going to be paid by advertisers. Rates to be charged during games that individuals were not observing. Fox Sports, renowned for increasingly ruthless with its programs, apparently reached the same conclusion. In conclusion, why waste valuable air time to an unsustainable product? Without Clark, on its own,
to get these set paydays that they garner and they want, bro. In order to do that, you have to have a consistent track record of good ratings, consistent track records of merchandise sales, ticket sales, and all of these things. And I'm telling you right now, next year is going to be a tough year.
This hurts much more because of how the drop-off has become public. Simply, the storyline from the previous season was that the WNBA was at last here. The articles were declared to be a golden age. Discussions prompted discussions over pay raises, and players were requesting deference and salary scales comparable to the NBA. However, all of one person has quieted that cacophony. Harm. Clark isn't treated fairly, and neither is. It's fair to the athletes that put in a lot of effort for many years before to her. However, the networks have communicated by their behavior. No coverage within the league, Clark. According to reports, frustration has evolved into blatant rage. Gamers who desire to demonstrate that the game had more than one star are now aware of the system's vulnerability. Indeed, it is. Executives and owners they can spin it however they want. However, when the two largest sports networks basically disconnect, it transmits the hype train's message. Derailed. For a league that is battling to renegotiating its CBA while attempting to use leverage popularity into increased pay. The timing is terrible.
How many times have you watched WNBA games since Caitlin Clark got hurt? Now think about this. It led our show last summer.
A bunch.
Oh, I think I led with it 6 times. I led with the WNBA. And either way, I talk about what I think is interesting. You notice I didn't talk about it this year? Yeah. It's not because I suddenly disliked the league. I thought it was growing. Anybody that wants to argue this, you're off your rocker. Caitlin Clark is the league.
However, the most part of this story's telling isn't merely that Fox and ESPN abandoned them. That's how they completed everything swiftly and without hesitation, as though they were anticipating an excuse me. However, the consequences don't stop here. Due to the network's retreating, made it possible for detractors to rip into the league even more.
I don't know what the ratings are. I haven't read them, but I know last year with Caitlin Clark, I would, if the game was on, I would drive home making a point. And when's that game on?
I would watch it on my phone in the car. So you could listen, not watch, I'm driving, but you could listen to it in the car.
ESPN and FOX Sports retreat occurred in a context. It was the final outcome of a storm that had been constructing for several months. Additionally, Caitlin Clark's wound was just the catalyst that flipped the fuse. To comprehend why the media behemoths left so swiftly, you must examine the figures. The WNBA was experiencing an unparalleled surge when Clark joined the league. Her being a collegiate standout resulted in buzz at the workplace. The ratings doubled, merchandise sold out, and arenas filled. In decades, for the first time, mainstream media were giving priority to their highlight reels on the WNBA. But the networks quickly came to a realization concerning the figures weren't dispersed all around. They were nearly tied, only to Clark's appearances during she was injured. The information fell apart. All night, nationwide broadcasts that had pulled decent figures, but they fell too close to record lows. Sales of tickets locally stalled, and narratives that previously disappeared from social media trends. The discussion for Fox and ESPN, this was more than just a letdown, it was a liability. Networks rely on momentum to function, hence the momentum of the WNBA was linked to a single thread. As soon as that thread broke, the product's financial viability ceased. Promoters who had placed large wagers on Clark's the rookie season was abruptly slowing down, back, unwilling to pay a premium for games that failed to attract viewers, and the dispute began there. Deepens. Not only did the networks cut, returning silently, they cut sections with brutal accuracy. Coverage of the pre-game disappeared. Highlight packaging became smaller, and debates on talk shows that previously included her rivalries with Clark were abandoned. all together. Fans took note of the quiet, and players were even more affected. For sportsmen who had battled for the leagues, it served as a harsh reminder of visibility, that their platform remained weak, sufficient without a single superstar carrying the mass. Critics contend that this dynamic was created by the league itself. By giving Clark a lot of promotion, she was both saved by the WNBA and the victim of blame. As she increased the league, she also turned into its focal point of not succeeding. There are no networks in the patience business. They're in the profitable enterprise. When earnings declined, they moved on without hesitation. A few insiders even think that Fox and ESPN had been searching for a way out at all, pointing to the WNBA's tense connection with networks over scheduling and broadcast rights disputes. Clark's wound provided them with the ideal justification. For the participants, the fallout is disastrous. It's not just. It's all about leverage and airtime. As the crucial CBA discussions begin, athletes wanted to utilize rising ratings as leverage for higher compensation. In the absence of coverage, their negotiating power evaporates. Additionally, as networks change their emphasis, the voices of the players grow elsewhere, less noisy. When networks start to shrink, it's almost tough to retrieve them. Momentum is key for sports media, and the momentum of the WNBA has stalled. However, the story doesn't finish here, because this might have been observed by the owners themselves, collapsed and took advantage of it. Benefit. Beyond the news reports regarding networks removing coverage is a long way off. Deeper problem. The impending conflict over collective bargaining for the WNBA. Insiders have been murmuring about agreement many months that proprietors were anticipating difficult discussions. Additionally, Caitlin Clark's injury might have given them unexpected leverage. Since the present CBA is scheduled to end, players were getting ready to push. Difficult for better pay, advantages, as well as more media attention. The reasoning was straightforward. With a surge ratings as well as Clark's celebrity status, the league had evidence of its worth at last. However, when Fox and ESPN left, that leverage disappeared nearly immediately. Owners are now in a more powerful position more than before. Rather than being under pressure to distribute millions of dollars contracts, they may indicate a decline in ratings and waning curiosity as rationale for maintaining low salaries. A few feel that this is not a coincidence but rather a strategic action. According to the hypothesis, by permitting the excitement surrounding Clark to wane and neglect to advertise the others, owners of the league, causing a crisis that helps them in the bargaining process. If the league appears poor and players are unable to demand large sums of money, though pessimistic, well-known playbook in the field of athletics. Before making a choice, reduce the pie. How to divide it? Fans have already observed indications of this tactic. Coverage regarding disputes beyond Clark's sphere of influence has been low, and advertising campaigns appear to end nearly immediately, as her injuries was verified. Even Clark's own team, the Indiana Fever, has been charged by detractors of failing to enough to defend or advance her. Theories of conspiracy started to circulate. Did you, league executives, and the Fever silently concur that ignoring Clark would be beneficial? Reduce anticipations before the CBA talks? Although that assertion may seem severe, the timing is questionable. There is no denying the pressure this impacts the players directly. Over the years, WNBA players have advocated for equality and respect. However, the inconsistent fan interaction has been their weak point. Owners are aware. This, as well as networks pulling back, the case for wage rises appears to have weakened, more so than before. Rather than entering discussions that are gaining traction. Participants are frantically defending their worth. They didn't imagine that position. As soon as Clark arrives, the league only one season prior, the lockout. This is made even more explosive by the threat. By October, if no agreement is achieved, the 2026 season might be in danger. That's not merely a failure. It might be disastrous for a league already battling for their lives. For admirers, the notion of dropping games following years of having trouble becoming relevant is unimaginable. But for owners, it may be a component of the strategy. Players who push into a nook until they agree to conditions that are advantageous to management. However, as depressing as this may sound, the dispute doesn't get out of the boardroom, because even though the proprietors may perceive a chance, the players are keeping an eye on their reputations. Break apart. Additionally, media critics are adding scathing criticism. The Indiana Fever, the team that Caitlin Clark is on, has unexpectedly become the focal point of the tempest. What ought to have been a dream collaboration, a skill that spans generations, combined with a franchise that is having trouble, desperate to be relevant, has become a contentious lightning rod. A few supporters and experts think the Fever played a minor but indisputable part in the WNBA's current state of disarray. Their management of Clark's injuries, minutes, and public perception has encouraged conjecture that the company wasn't only careless but complicit in permitting her momentum to stop. Critics contend that the choices made by the Fever never matched the Clark star power is urgent. Early on in the season, inquiries were made regarding her duties as well as the physical attributes of opponents who are pursuing her. Rather than requesting improved defense from game plans or modifying referees, the squad appeared happy to let Clark take in the penalty when her injury eventually removed her from the court, leaving fans. Was this preventable? Some people question. Even subtly recommend the squad and league profited from Clark's marginalization as, conveniently, it diverted focus from rising expectations in the impending CBA conflict. Externally, this, though it seems like a leap theory, irate fans, the links lead to Italy. After all, the Fever have been among the worst-run teams in the league. Franchisees for many years, their absence of playoff achievement and failure to hold on to Clark was given their golden ticket by the Stars. However, rather of creating a solid base surrounding her, they've been charged with improperly managing her ascent. Social. These concerns were heightened by the media, with supporters pointing to the team's lack of appeared to resist as Clark turned the object of physical, rather filthy play from opponents. And this is where it becomes much more untidy. If the Fever did comply with the league's more extensive method of reducing excitement, it would imply giving up their own immediate achievement to safeguard the owner's long-term agenda. It's the type of conspiracy that supporters like debating, and it has only strengthened the WNBA's reputation. Issue. When viewers start to wonder whether there is manipulation of results, trust erodes, and when it's lost, it's almost impossible to recover. Clark's absence, however, reveals the unpleasant reality that no other player has been successful in filling her footwear. Rivals of the Fever, from Angel to AIA Wilson, just don't give orders the same focus. Additionally, when Clark's without her, the team faltered and the league lost its focal point. Rather than other celebrities stepped forward and became involved in their own disputes, supporting the idea that the WNBA is unsure about how to respond to achievement when it comes. For the Fever from Indiana, the fallout has been disastrous. Rather than being honored as the group that brought the league back to life, they're being said to have undermined it. Whether Whether deliberate or not their part in, fans are feeling devastated by Clark's defeat, betrayed, and that rage alone, exacerbated when media, critics from Jason Whitlock introduced Colin Cowherd, utilizing the circumstance as justification to shatter the league even further. When, according to Jason Whitlock, the WNBA's, he didn't hold back in his current state. Renowned for his direct, frequently contentious takes, Whitlock let loose a vicious criticism that went straight to the core of the issues facing the league. For him, the WNBA wasn't only having trouble, it was being actively destroying itself. According to him, the players were no longer likable, entitled, and totally cut off from reality.